Good morning, fourth grade. We have language lesson 157 today. First of all, let's just go over some of the things that we've been learning about. We've been talking about subject-verb agreement. So if we want our subjects and verbs to agree, what are we saying? What do we mean by agree? We mean that if we have a singular subject, we also have to have a singular verb. And if we have a plural subject, we also have to have a plural verb. Now, how do we do this? We know that for our nouns, our subjects, if it's plural, like dogs, dogs is plural. Usually plural nouns end in S, and singular nouns do not end in S, like dog is singular. But it's the opposite for verbs. Plural verbs usually do not end in S, and singular verbs most times do end in S. So keep that in mind when you're trying to make sure that your subjects and verbs agree. Often you can go by how it sounds, but not always. So think through it that way, that they are opposite from each other. Now, we've also been talking about lie and lay, sit and set, and this can get really confusing. But if you can turn back for a little bit in your book to page 237, where we talked about the words sit and set. So how do you know which one to use? Now, they tell you on this page what the words mean, and then for the word sit, for example, it means to rest or be seated. So if you're talking about resting and being seated, you use the word sit or another form of sit. So they have 4 options. You can use sit, sitting, sat, and have sat. The verb set is what you use if you're talking about to put or place something. And their forms are set, setting, set, and have set. Okay? So it depends on what meaning you want. Choose sit or set, and then make sure you choose one of the forms under the right meaning. Okay? So if you want to use the meaning to put or place something, make sure you use one of the forms set, setting, set, or have set. Now, lie and lay on page 239. Lie is the word that means to rest or recline. Now, if you're talking about the past of lie, that's when you use lay. And other forms are lying and have lain. Now, lay means to put or place something. And the other forms are laying, laid, and have laid. Okay, so just be careful to use the one with the correct meaning, and they have different forms that you can choose from depending on when it happened or what your sentence is. Now for today's lesson, we're talking about other troublesome words and how to use them correctly. I have them listed here on the board. We have except, affect, effect, beside, besides, between, among, burst, bust, have, of, less, fewer, off of, off, to, and, wait on, and wait for. Now, these are some words that we tend to use incorrectly. So we're going to go over today how to use them correctly. Let's just start with accept and accept. Now, the first word that starts with the letter A, accept, is only a verb, and it means to it means to receive or to agree to. Okay, an example would be he accepted her invitation. So you're receiving something. Now, this form of accept is a preposition, and it means excluding. So everyone except Alex won a prize. Okay, so this is if you're excluding. You use this form of accept. Now, affect. The verb affect means to influence or to act upon. For example, the weather always affects her health. Okay, so it's like something happens that makes something else happen. That is the meaning that we use for the word affect. It starts with the letter A. Okay? Then the other kind of effect is a noun, and it means result or consequence. So this is when something happens because of something else. We could easily see the effects of the storm. Okay? So something happens here because of something else is effect. And this effect is when you influence something else. You're the thing making it happen. Okay? Now we have beside and besides. Beside means by the side of or next to. Okay? We could say I sat beside her at school. Besides means in addition to. So if we say Jack has several books besides this one, it means in addition to this book, he has more books. That's for the word besides. Next we have between, and we use between when we're talking about two people or things. An example would be Jared and I had $3 between us. We use among if we're talking about 3 or more people or things. The sickness spread among the townspeople. Okay? Now, burst and bust. Something here, do not use bust or busted when you should have used burst. Okay, so if you say the balloon burst, don't say the balloon busted. That type of thing, okay? Just be careful that if you mean burst, use burst, not bust instead of burst. Now we have and of. Of is a preposition and should never be used instead of the helping verb have. For example, you shouldn't say, I could have gone to school today. You should say, I could have gone to school today, not I could have. This is, do not use the preposition in place of the helping verb. Next we have less and fewer. Less is when we're talking about something that we cannot count, like less flour or less air. You can't count that. Fewer is when we're talking about things that we can count. So for less, when you cannot count, she poured less milk into the second bowl. Or things you can count, she used fewer eggs in the pie than in the cake. Off of and off. Never use off of. Off is enough. You don't need to say, get off of the chair. Just say, can you please get off the chair? Whatever you're saying. Do not say off of. To and. Never use and instead of to after the word try. Now, for example, try and remember my birthday. Do not use and in that way. Say, try to remember my birthday. Don't use and in place of to. Try and remember my birthday is incorrect. Say, try to. Wait on and wait for. Now, wait on means to serve. It does not mean to wait for. So if we say, at the airport, Kyle waited on his sister for an hour, that does not make sense. It's not talking about wait on does not mean that you are waiting for someone. You should say, at the airport, Kyle waited for his sister for a full hour. If you say wait on, you should use it for when you're talking about to serve. Dad waited on Mom when she was sick in bed. Or the waiter waited on our family when we went to the restaurant. Okay? So wait on is when you're serving, but to wait for is when you're waiting for someone. Okay? You'll be working with these in your lesson, of course, so you can look back to the chart on page 244 if you need a reference for that. Work your lesson carefully. You also have quiz 22 today. Remember to get that out of your folder and do your best. Take your time. Work through that carefully. Let me know if you have any questions today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.